This week on Christian World News, after 12 days of war, Iran is reeling. This man says the country is ripe for a revolution. The eldest son of the Shah is on a mission to replace the radical Islamic regime.
Plus, church attack in Syria. More than 25 people died when a suicide bomber struck on a Sunday morning. Some fear this is just the beginning.
From the jungles of Indonesia to the sunny state of Florida, the Wild Brothers have an award-winning reality television show. See how they're fulfilling the Great Commission by getting off the couch and into creation.
Welcome, everyone, to this week's edition of Christian World News. I'm Wendy Griffiths.
And I'm George Thomas. Good to see you, too, as well. You know, in 12 days of war, Israel decimated Iran's military leadership and struck its nuclear program. The U.S. joined in with bunker-busting bombs hitting Iran's main nuclear facilities.
Israel says the attack set back Iran's nuclear program by years. The next day, President Trump announced a ceasefire, while pro-democracy forces called for an uprising in Iran. Here's Chris Mitchell with more.
After Trump's announcement, the Israeli government released a statement and said it achieved the main goals of its military operations against Iran. Israel has removed a dual immediate existential threat, both in the nuclear field and in the field of ballistic missiles. In addition, the IDF achieved complete air control over the skies of Tehran, inflicted severe damage on the military leadership, and destroyed dozens of central Iranian government targets. In the past 2 days, the IDF also hit Evin Prison, the headquarters of the Baghis, and the Israel destruction clock inside Tehran.
These are not sites that have strategic significance, but they have immense political significance. They are the pillars, if you will, of this horrendous regime. And by bombing them, Israel has weakened that regime. And so ultimately, the greatest guarantee we have for a non-nuclear, non-dangerous, non-threatening Iran is by the removal of the regime.
Also on Monday, Reza Pahlavi, the son of the late Shah of Iran, presented himself as a figure who can unify the country if the Iranian government collapses. He said the regime is on its last legs.
The Islamic Republic is collapsing. Credible reports indicate that Ali Khamenei's family and the family of senior regime officials are making preparations to flee Iran.
It remains to be seen if this ceasefire will provide a lifeline to the Ayatollah, or if the 12-day war has so weakened the regime that the people of Iran could rise up to overthrow the government. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Thank you, Chris. And as you saw in Chris's story, the oldest son of the last late Shah of Iran believes that the nation is ready for regime change. And that was the case even before the war between Israel and Iran.
That's right. Last year, I sat down with the Crown Prince. He told me why the country is ripe for a revolution. During a wide-ranging interview, the eldest son of Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the last Shah of Iran, told CBN News that Iranians are clamoring for political change like never before.
The regime's own figures demonstrate that at least 73% of the population want another form of government. And I imagine the number is much higher than that, because if it was an actual open polling, you would probably even have in the 90 percentile range.
In 1979, as heir to the throne, Pahlavi was in the U.S. training to be a fighter pilot when Muslim radical leaders forced his father to relinquish the monarchy, sending the entire family into exile. Pahlavi says the aftermath led to an Islamic-run regime that would devastate his ancestral homeland, where today 60% of the people live below the poverty line.
45 years of clerical rule in the name of religion and the immediate element of persecution and the fact that our country has fallen behind in terms of being on the route towards progress, because Iran by now should have been the South Korea of the Middle East. Instead, it's the North Korea of the region.
Under the mullah's reign, Iran has become a leading state sponsor of terrorism and the root cause of instability in the Middle East and beyond.
It finances Hezbollah, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, the Houthis, all in its proxy wars. And of course, it's all networks of activists that they have that are doing the bidding of the regime in the outside world, even in Western capitals.
45 years after the radical Muslim clerics took over the country, His Royal Highness says that the mullahs of Tehran are weaker than ever before and have lost their legitimacy in the eyes of a majority of Iranians.
When you lose your legitimacy, whether it's religious legitimacy or political legitimacy, then you're simply holding on by sheer repression. When you have a regime that is completely delegitimized, when you have people who no longer believe in this system, even if they did at some point, and they want out, that makes these systems vulnerable.
Case in point, the 2022 nationwide protests that followed the murder of Mahsa Amini, detained by religious police for allegedly not properly wearing her mandatory hijab. Iranian security forces killed more than 500 protesters and imprisoned some 20,000 people. Pahlavi says this clearly shows Iranians are ready to sacrifice for revolution.
Nobody said that freedom comes for free. The price sometimes is extremely high. But are you willing to say that just because it's too expensive, I'm not going to purchase it and put up with what otherwise would be annihilation, demise? We don't have a choice. We have to do it. We have to do it for survival. We have to do it for sanity. We have to do it for humanity. We have to do it for our own interests, no matter what it takes.
Pahlavi, who idealizes Martin Luther King Jr. and Mahatma Gandhi for their pursuit of non-violent campaigns for political change, runs the National Council of Iran, whose mission is to replace the current Islamic-led regime with a secular democracy. He wants the world to focus on supporting Iranian people rather than keep coddling the regime's thugs.
Even those who believe that maybe we could try and bring reform from within slowly but surely have given up on this idea. Look, we cannot have a religious dictatorship in the 21st century. We have to go towards a secular democracy. So that's why I think the majority of Iranians find themselves in the same optic, in the same vision.
Knowing the history that you have with your beloved nation, do you ever say, you know what, I think this is too tough a fight. Too many innocent people's lives are being taken, and it's been 45 years. Do you ever despair?
There were moments in time that I wonder if South Africans would have given up, or people in the Eastern Bloc countries would have given up, and even dissidents in the Soviet Union would have given up. I haven't heard once a dissident anywhere in the planet say, you know what, I give up. You can't give up. It's not an option. And I think Iranians, the reason why they haven't given up, the reason why they go to the streets, the reason why they take the risk to be shot in the eye or continue to be murdered by the regime is because they know that the only way out is for us to succeed. And if they have to sacrifice themselves so that future generations will, have a better life, so be it.
Thank you, sir.
Incredible interview, George. Yeah. And no doubt, Iran is ripe for regime change.
Like never before in the last 46 years of the Islamic regime's rule. This is a pivotal moment. All the elements are in place for a potential collapse. But this administration and the world has to push that on. And I don't know if we're there yet.
And real quick, how can we pray?
Pray for the church. I mean, in the last few hours, hundreds of people have been rounded up. Those who've been suspected of working with Mossad, Israel's intelligence. They've been rounding up hundreds of people, and I'm sure, for sure, Christians are part of that roundup because they're seen as an extension of the West.
Wow. All right. Great reporting.
Thank you.
Well, coming up, in Syria, Christians attacked on a Sunday morning. Is the church bracing for a new wave of violence? Welcome back to Christian World News. In Syria, at least 25 people died in a terror attack on a Greek Orthodox church near Damascus. About 350 people were inside the Mar Elias church for a prayer meeting. Witnesses say a man entered the sanctuary and began shooting. When the crowd rushed the attacker, he detonated an explosive belt. The Syrian Interior Ministry says the suicide bomber was with the Islamic State, also known as ISIS.
International correspondent Chuck Colton joins us now. Chuck, give us a sense of, does this mean ISIS is on the rise in Syria, in that region?
Well, okay, so two things, George. Talking to people that I was just with in Syria on my last trip a month ago, what they're saying is that a lot of people believe that it was not ISIS, that it was actually agents of the GSS that orchestrated this. Now, there's no corroboration of that, but that's just what people on the ground are saying. Now, when it comes to ISIS, there are still 65,000 ISIS people in eastern Syria and across the country. They just went into hiding or went into prison back in 2019. So the Kurds have been keeping a lid on ISIS, along with help from the United States, up until very recently, as the United States has started to pull out and try to pressure the Kurds to release the ISIS fighters into the custody of the GSS. And so that could very well signal another rise in ISIS activity in the area.
Chuck, any sense that this new Syrian government, which incidentally is headed by a former al-Qaeda operative, are they in the business of protecting religious minorities like the Christians in Syria?
So what we're being told by people who are there, who are living under the GSS, that this is they're saying, on one hand, the al-Sharaa government is putting forward a brave face to the rest of the world, trying to look very progressive and modern and trying to get aid dollars and lifting of sanctions. But the areas that they control inside Syria, like Damascus and Homs and places like that, are being put under Sharia law. So women are being separated from men in the mosques. They're having to sit in the back of the buses and public transport and things like that. So there's a real duality to what the al-Sharaa government is doing, and again, not a lot of confidence by every single person that I talked to when I was there. Said if the al-Sharaa government takes over the rest of eastern Syria, we're all going to flee.
Wow. Okay, Chuck, we'll have to leave it there. Thanks for bringing us up to date on this latest situation. Wendy?
All right, well, coming up, getting off the couch and into creation. See how the Wild brothers are fulfilling the Great Commission through their reality TV shows.
Welcome back. The Wild brothers are back with a new round of outdoor adventures and faith-based reality television.
Yeah, I recently sat down with the brothers who are making it their mission to get young people off the couch and into creation. We first introduced the Wild brothers on the 700 Club in 2016. Morgan, Hudson, Kian, and Asher were guests along with their father, Mike Wild.
I actually learned that there were still people groups left on the earth that didn't have access to the gospel.
They spoke of their missionary upbringing in the remote jungles of Indonesia, building their own homes.
We wanted to make sure it was built on a really firm foundation and make sure it wasn't going anywhere.
Learning a new language and telling the Wana tribe about Jesus, much of which they documented on video.
We had this great message to share with them and teach them to read and write, so they were thrilled to have that privilege.
Guys, it is so good to see you. We recently caught up with 3 of the brothers. Morgan, now 27, was with his wife, who was having their second baby. 25-year-old Hudson is also married with a child and one on the way. 23-year-old Kian just recently married, and 21-year-old Asher.
I'm still very single, yeah. That's right. So, waiting and praying on that one.
Okay, well, you got time.
I do.
About 5 years ago, they moved to Florida and launched Wild Brothers TV.
Wild Brothers TV is the #1 source of Great Commissions entertainment for families. So we want to expose young kids and families to what God is doing around the world, how he's saving the nations, but it's also a great source of entertainment. We love outdoor adventure, and I think all children are wired with the spirit of adventure. Sometimes they don't really realize that, though, and they try to live vicariously through different means, media and video games, and so our platform is all centered around getting families adventuring outside, getting close to God.
Their latest video project, Off the Couch into Creation, is an award-winning reality show streaming on Angel Studios.
There's a lot of commotion up here.
Oh my God, there he is right here, guys. See him?
This is crazy.
We're cross-country skiing over a frozen lake.
That's a fun show, yeah. So that show documents us actually exploring America for the first time. So when we came back from Indonesia, we moved to a small town called Niceville, and it's like the most sleepiest town ever. And we were like, man, is our days of adventuring over? And so we made a challenge for ourselves to actually try to explore the creation around us. And we were blown away by all the amazing adventures we went on just right here in America.
And there's more. The brothers are also launching an 8-week outdoor adventure homeschool curriculum, as well as working on an animated children's show called Wild Bros.
So it's our first animated series, and it's going to document kind of like based on our true life stories as missionary kids, but it's going to be in a cartoon version. And so we're really excited about this show because it's going to get into a much wider audience, but it's all based on true events. And so as kids are watching a fun cartoon, they're learning all about the Great Commission. They're learning about what it takes to get the mission out, to get God's word translated.
The brothers say their main mission is showing young people that following Jesus is the ultimate adventure.
Even Jesus, when he called people that are regular, everyday people, like fishermen, you know? And so what we've seen is that, yeah, you don't have to be someone special for God to use you. And so for us, living on mission is a sacrificial way of living. It doesn't matter what part of the globe you're at and what you're doing. Really, everybody can be involved in God's great commission of seeing the nations reach. And so for us, that meant actually being there on the tip of the spear in a remote tribe. It's not something that's scary. It's not something that they can't attain to. It's Christ is the power. He fills us with his Holy Spirit and allows us to go and do great things. And so we want people to see, man, what part could I play in that, and to live sacrificially, whether that's here in the States, whether that's overseas.
How has getting married and bringing wives and babies into the Wild Brothers changed the dynamic or even changed the mission, or has it, Hudson?
It's been awesome. Really, women are amazing, and with 4 brothers, a bunch of knuckleheads, it was about time that the boys get some sisters, and my mom finally gets some daughters. The girls have their own show called Wild Home on Wild Brothers TV, because half of our audience are actually young women. And as 4 brothers, we make a lot of kind of guy-focused content. So the women are able to jump on the platform and add that feminine flair.
Meanwhile, parents Mike and Libby are continuing their mission work in Indonesia. And although the brothers live in the States now, their hearts are still in the jungle.
I know you spent 17 years there, but do you think you'll ever go back?
Absolutely, yeah. I actually just was visiting Indonesia recently with my parents, and have plans to, Lord willing, head back. I definitely have a lot of dear brothers and sisters in Christ over there, and there's a lot of adventures that are still on the bucket list.
What's your #1 adventure on the bucket list?
Us boys would always love to find a living dinosaur, and there's some legends over there about possible living dinosaurs, so.
Wow.
That would be the ultimate.
Just hear that? Well, it does look like Jurassic Park there, so.
Yeah, true.
Oh, this is breaking news. We are on the hunt, and you guys have to come back when you have any shred of evidence.
There we go. Will do.
And you can see all of the Wild Brothers adventures on Wild Brothers TV, available on mobile apps and smart TVs.
So Wild Brothers TV has tons, hours and hours of original content to stream, but then also really fun, engaging community features, such as weekly challenges, a safe social media forum to connect with us and other like-minded believers. So it's a mobile app, streaming platform, but also a community.
Lord, thank you so much for today. Thank you for this opportunity and just for your beautiful creation.
Talk about making the Great Commission a great adventure.
I know, and how cool is that? I got to interview them when they were boys, and now they're men, and they've got wives and babies, except for Asher. So we're still praying for you, buddy, but please don't rush it. You got time. And you can follow them on social media. They're amazing.
We'll be back right after this.
Finally, this week, a college student is thankful to be alive after surviving a terrifying experience.
Maya Grimes lived through an EF3 tornado. She told CBN's Charlene Aaron about her miraculous survival.
Driving just outside of St. Louis on May 16th, Maya Grimes noticed the sky turn dark as she talked to her dad on the phone.
It just looked like there was a storm coming. So I stayed on the phone with him, and then about a minute passed since we started the phone call, and then the trees started to fall down on both sides of the street. And so I was screaming into the phone, "Dad, the trees are falling, the trees are falling, the trees are falling."
Before she knew it, Maya found herself in the middle of an EF3 tornado. She shared her frightening experience recently on CBN's Prayer Link.
The trees were falling on both sides of the street. If I swerved onto the other side of the street, I would have swerved into incoming traffic. And then if I would have stayed on the side that I was on, I would have gotten hit by the big oak trees falling on the street called Union. So I ended up driving over a tree, and that's kind of when everything just took a turn.
You were caught right in the middle of all of it, and your car started spinning in circles. You were holding on to your steering wheel for dear life. What was going through your mind as your car is spinning around like that?
My car started spinning in circles and spinning and spinning. And at the same time as it started spinning, I remember the rain had just started pouring down like right before that point. And there was a lot of hail. So the hail was hitting my car. The rain was pouring down. And like before I could even process that, the car just started spinning in circles. And I was just holding onto the wheel screaming, "Jesus, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus."
Then the powerful storm suddenly blew out the windows of Maya's car.
I was just thinking, as the windows were all busting out on me on every side of my car, that was it. And that I just, wanted to make it as fast and hopefully painless as possible if those were to be my last moment. I was ejected from my car through the driver's side door, and I slid down the street about 40 yards in the rain and with, the debris and everything falling in the middle of the street.
Maya grabbed onto a light post, the only thing left standing, and held on for dear life. After the wind died down, she flagged down a nearby ambulance for help, suffering only a few cuts and bruises, for which she gives God all the credit. While the rising senior says her near-death experience was traumatic, it's also strengthened her relationship with Jesus, a story she now shares across social media to point others to the one true lifesaver.
I'm 20 years old, and I know that a lot of people my age may be on the fence or kind of struggling with their faith. And so the reason for me posting was just to say, get right with God, because life is so uncertain. The plans that we have for ourselves are not always the plans that God has for us. And this whole situation really just put that into perspective, how serious life is and just how important it is to make sure that other people also know the importance of getting right and forming a real relationship with God.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Incredible.
Wow.
Just incredible.
Dang, that was intense.
Thank God
she's a miracle.
Okay.
She's alive.
It was a real miracle.
Yeah, for sure. Folks, that is it for this week's edition of Christian World News. Until next week, from all of us here, goodbye.
And God bless you.